Coming up, you'll hear from Printify's new CEO, Anastasia Olenika. But of course, everyone has an origin story when it comes to print on demand, about how they started with almost nothing and turned that into profits. That's because no matter where you come from or how you begin, there's an opportunity for anyone to find success with print on demand. And that is especially true for my guest today, which is why I am very excited to be chatting with them. Ashley Whitlatch is a star seller and creator on Book Talk. That is the corner of TikTok, if you didn't know, that is dedicated to enthusiastic readers around the world. So look up hashtag Book Talk and you will see this lovely lady. Hannah Ebeling is a creator on YouTube. She specializes in wealth building and print on demand. Her online channel is a very important resource for anyone learning how to take their online business to the next level. And of course, Sarah Blair is one of the first power sellers that we ever had on our platform, and her early success with Printify caught our eye, of course, which is why we've been obsessed with her ever since. Ladies, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Talish, for having us.
This is so great, our first ever live print on demand, and this is actually a live podcast right now, by the way, if you're just tuning in. Printing Profits is exactly how it goes. But hey, Sarah, I want to start off with you because, like I said, we have been obsessed with you ever since. And I understand that your journey to print on demand started with a tough personal situation that I'm sure a lot of people who are watching right now can relate to. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, that's right. So I've had some pretty difficult health issues for many years now that had really impacted my ability to work consistently or full-time and to make a living as a result. And in the fall of 2020, things really took a further dive with my health to where I was left having to drop out of the graduate school program I was in and just left having no idea what I was going to do to make a living or really just go forward from there. So I realized at that point that given these challenges, if I wanted to earn consistent income moving forward, I needed to find a way to work for myself so that I would have the flexibility to work around these issues I was having. So I did some research and I stumbled upon print on demand and selling on Etsy. And I had never heard of print on demand before, but given the low barrier of entry, especially cost-wise, since I didn't really have any startup capital at the time, and the fact that I've always, my whole life, really loved art and design, it seemed like a great fit for me. So I dove right into it. I think I opened up an Etsy shop the next day and, just started listing things. And my designs were quite all over the place at first, which I think a lot of print-on-demand sellers can relate to when they get started. But I had very lucky timing because I started in November of 2020. So the online holiday sales boom that year because of the pandemic gave me a few early sales, which I'm not sure I really had good enough designs to warrant those sales, but right place, right time, right? So that kept me motivated. So even though I was only able to work at it when I felt well enough, I really did my best to be persistent with it. So I kept experimenting until I found a niche that was right for me. And I always worked on improving my design skills and my designs in general. I also played around with different product offerings until I started out selling only mugs, but I eventually landed on selling pretty much entirely apparel because it just turned out for my designs, that's where they happened to sell best, which I wouldn't have predicted, but the customer's always right. So with a lot of pivoting and a lot of fine-tuning, my shop slowly started to gain traction. And in 2022, it finally really took off to where I did over $430,000 in revenue.
Wow.
And this year, it's been not quite that high, but still high enough that it's really given me a level of financial stability I never could have dreamed about. So Printify has been a huge part of that, and I'm really grateful for that and for the print-on-demand industry.
What I love about this is that a lot of people who go into this thinking like, oh, why am I not successful overnight? Why is it not happening for me that quickly? And what I love about your story is it's trial and error. It's like anything that you put energy into, you got to practice, you got to get up, you got to, if it's not working, try another angle as well. Hannah, you have probably one of the best resumes I've seen, aside from being a star content creator and a star seller. But take me back to the early days and how you found print on demand.
Well, thank you so much for your kind words. That means a lot. So, like a lot of people in 2020, I found myself with a ton of extra time. I was stuck at home. And so, really, ever since I can remember, I've had the dream of maybe someday having my own business, having flexible hours to be able to do what I wanted to. And that led me to trying a number of different side hustles throughout the years. And I had varying degrees of success with a lot of them, but nothing really stuck. And so one day I just remember I was actually watching YouTube and came across some print-on-demand videos, and it was like a light bulb just went off in my head, and I felt like I could really see myself sticking with this and doing it, having some success, especially like you said, there's a really low startup cost, so there's not a ton of risk to get started. So I started learning, watching videos as much as I could, and I actually started my shop the very next day and was so excited to really get started. And I've been growing that and just continuing to learn more ever since. So that's why I'm super passionate to share with other people all of those tools that I really wish I had from day one to help people maybe get a better jump start than I first had to have even more success a lot faster.
What I love about this is that there's I think there's this idea that wherever people need to find success, you need to go to school. You need to be an expert. You need to train and learn something for a really long time. And you guys just learned this by yourselves. Like you didn't have any help. This was just you just going on YouTube, using that as a resource, and again, just trying again and again until it worked out. So that's fantastic. Ashley, I'm sure a lot of people who are watching us right now will probably recognize you. You have become a trusted voice for a lot of people online, especially on TikTok. But aside from your love of books, I know we got to talk about some other stuff. Can you tell me about your professional background and how that helped you define TikTok and then print on demand?
Yeah, I've been a marketer for over 15 years and working primarily in tech, both B2B and consumer. And as a result of that, that meant I was an early adopter to a lot of new technologies and new platforms. I'm always looking at where are the eyeballs? Where are people spending their time? Because as a business, you want to be in front of as many of those people as possible.
Right.
And so I had initially had a Musical.ly account before it was TikTok and was just kind of lurking. I hadn't really posted anything and was just kind of checking it out to observe and see if it could potentially be a great platform for some of my clients. And it wasn't until 2020, which I think a lot of us can kind of relate to, having that extra time or a forcing function to find something new to do, that I ended up creating my own TikTok account, really as a creative outlet. I was working at the time in very technical startups, and it was a way for me to still have kind of that fun creativity that I was craving. And so I started posting, and that ended up resulting in this really incredible, engaged community of people.
Yeah.
And then that led me to thinking, well, could I turn this into a business? Like, is there a way to monetize this community that feels very authentic and would resonate with them? And so that led me to print on demand and looking at those opportunities. And like you both said, I think there's such a low barrier to entry, and it's a great way to test and see what resonates with your potential customers and quickly change without having to have that huge startup cost to get started.
Right, definitely. Sarah, you, as I understand from what I've read, it took you some time to get those early returns back from your store. I don't know, was it weeks or months for you?
I would say it was definitely months before I started seeing consistent real sales where I was like, this is something I can do.
I mean, first question to you, I have another one, but I just, how do you stay motivated? I mean, like for me, if I don't lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks after going to the gym one time, I give up on the gym, and that's been my strategy for a while. But it took you like a couple months. What kept you motivated that whole time?
Well, part of it was that I felt, what else am I going to do? I need, it was almost more, I felt I needed to find something to do. So it was like, I am going to make this work. That's why I pivoted so much. I did so much experimentation. I was like, I know there is a way to make this work. So I'm going to figure out what it is. And also, even though it took a while for sales to be really consistent, they did slowly, I could really see as the weeks passed them increasing. First, it would be maybe a sale a week, but then it was a sale every day or two, and then 2 sales a day. And so I still remember one time in April, it had been about 6 months since I opened my shop. There was a day when I sold 17 shirts. And I thought, oh my God, I sold 17 shirts in one day. So it was the little things, you know, it's setting the bar, setting a low goal. Maybe I want to make a sale a day, and that's my goal. And then maybe, you know, 10 sales a day. So just making steps that are achievable. That was a big thing for me.
But what about your process? I mean, just like the way that you worked, was there anything that you thought was the most important out of that process in those couple months that you think could help other people who are kind of looking at that and going, oh man, I don't know if I should stick it out, or how should I do this?
I think that I was really also motivated by my own desire to improve as a designer. So I would say if anyone has any just inherent love of or interest in art and design, or even just making simple text-based designs, you know, how can you make them better? Just always striving to improve for improvement's own sake is, to me, and I think to a lot of people, really motivating.
Definitely, yeah. Speaking of designs, Hannah, one of the things that you do on your channel, which I love, is that you consistently report on trending niches, trending products, and I'm sure you get a lot of questions from people from people all the time who are just starting out. What advice would you give to someone who might not know quite yet what niche they want to sell in, or what designs they want to come up with? How do they begin in?
Yeah, so I think finding niches can seem very mysterious, really scary. It's something that people, they don't know how to go into this. So there's 2 big pieces of advice I would probably give a new seller. And so the first one is that when I got started, I actually found a lot of success targeting a niche that I was very personally familiar with. I had a lot of interest in it. And I think that that is something that anyone can tap into. Every person has something that they have some particular knowledge in, whether that is a career, maybe that's a hobby, or just an interest or passion of theirs. That is a great place to start. But if you don't have something that you feel like, you know, I want to run with this is something I'm really passionate with, there are some really amazing resources and tools. I share a lot on my channel, but one really great free resource that really anyone can take advantage of is just look up a daily holiday calendar. And whatever today's date is, go 2 or 3 months forward and just start looking around for some really fun holidays, big ones, small ones, really obscure ones, and make designs for those. That has worked really well in my own business, and a lot of people have success with that strategy.
Definitely. The holiday calendar is such a go-to tip. Like, start there. I've heard this before, and it really does make a lot of sense. Ashley, you, to a lot of people, have achieved what might seem like the impossible, because a lot of people will start their stores, they'll get their products, and then they'll go, oh my God, where's this traffic? You know, why isn't anyone buying my stuff? And you kind of flipped the whole thing on its head because you had the traffic. And then you had to create products for that afterwards. But what would be your advice to someone who's got their shop open and they're trying to drive traffic to their store? What should they do?
Yeah, I think that a mistake that I see a lot of people starting out do all the time is talking about themselves and their own products. And we all like to talk about ourselves, but really you should think about every piece of content being focused on the customer first and having all of your messaging be customer centric. And so if you look at an example like Nike, and by the way, like taking any brand that you admire or think is amazing in their messaging and looking at that for inspiration is a great place to start as well. But if we're looking at a brand like Nike, all of their messaging is very much focused on the individual and the transformation that their products have on that individual's life. They're not out here saying, we make the best running shoes, buy our shoe, here it is. They're saying, just do it, find your greatness. It's always message towards the person. And so that's what you need to do with your own brand, or as you're building your business, is thinking about how can I tailor my messaging, whether it's a blog post or, you know, a video or a TikTok, and making it focused on them first. And a great way to kind of bucket that or find those emotional outcomes that you want a customer to have is thinking about 3 main things. You want to entertain, educate, or inspire.
I love that. Yeah.
And it doesn't have to hit all of 3 of those at once, but it needs to hit at least one of those to be truly engaging and to get the right people to your store or shop. And so I'll give you a few examples. So let's say you have a shop that's focused on dog lovers and you want to create content around that. It could be product adjacent content, I think, is a great way, because you're going to start driving the type of people that are going to be interested in purchasing, but you're not doing that hard sell. You're bringing them in. They're going to vibe with you and be excited about the content that you're creating. And then maybe find out, oh, they also sell some things that I'd be interested in purchasing. So share your own pet or, cute dogs and whatever you might find. Relate. Exactly.
Be a human being,
Exactly. And then in terms of educational content, that could be anything from really looking at retention, because I think long-term too, having repeat customers is so important in creating brand loyalty for the long-term success of your shop. And you want to be top of mind. So when they come back and want to make a second purchase and they're thinking of your shop first. So that could be anything from, a product care guide or this is how you take care of the shirt you just bought, and being able to engage with people that way. And then third, in terms of inspiring content, I know a lot of brands, I think, Sarah, you've mentioned this previously, that when you donate to an organization that you care a lot about, a portion of your profits, it's another great way for people to feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. They're not just buying a mug or a t-shirt. They're buying into an ideal or a set of values that they identify with. And I think especially as we see more of Gen Z have more purchase power in the marketplace and in the economy, they're doing their research on businesses and brands. Like, they care a lot about identifying with brands that also follow their own values. So I think that's a great way to also tie in.
This makes me think about, in our last season of the podcast, I was talking to Spider Perry, who runs Nerdy Kepi, and they said that one of the things that you don't often think about is that what you feed feeds you, the communities that you're a part of, what you collaborate with, how you choose to spend your time, how you tell people how you spend your time. Like, you're all part, like, it might seem that the internet is a very isolating place, but people are on there to find community. We see this with TikTok all the time as well.
Absolutely.
We have a little bit of time left, and I want to get something from you because I know that we are right on the edge of Q4, and I know that for a lot of people watching right now, this might be your first Q4, so rapid fire. If you could give advice to somebody thinking back to your first Q4 experience, what advice would you give, Hannah?
It's not too early to be starting to think about Christmas. Like, it might feel like we have a lot of weeks left, but get your Christmas designs out early, because people start shopping earlier and earlier every year. And it's nice to give those products a little bit of time to rank and search. So that's one of my biggest pieces of advice. Don't feel like you're only stuck in like Halloween right now. You can move on to Christmas, and a lot of people find a ton of success just targeting those end of the year holidays.
Get a calendar.
Yes,
I know.
do it.
Calendars still exist, people. We can work with them. Sarah, what about you?
I would say that this applies especially to Etsy, but one of the most important things is finding a way to stand out on there. And so I see a lot of new shops asking for feedback where they've put up just a bunch of, like right now, people putting up a lot of just generic Halloween designs. But especially as a new shop, why is someone going to pick your design over the 10,000 other similar designs? So I would say avoid the temptation to just put up a bunch of generic Christmas-related designs or Hanukkah or whatever holidays. Sub-niching is great for this. So if you've picked a niche, say it's dog lovers, can you do a run of dogs in cute Christmas hats, right? How can you combine the holidays with whatever your niche is or whatever market you're trying to tap into? That can be a real gold mine during the fourth quarter.
Absolutely. Ashley?
Yeah, I would say, and this could be for Etsy or for your own website if you have a brand or Shopify, anything like that. Trying to get unique, again, to stand out with not just giving a discount. I think that's the standard. It's almost, across the board what everybody does, and it's a race to the bottom oftentimes.
Right.
And instead think about doing, maybe a gift with purchase, or it could be a set amount, but trying to find some unique way to also get products in hands. Maybe it's something new you want to offer in the future, but it's exclusive to only Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So I think finding unique ways to stand out and not just do the standard, like 25% off is a good way to think about it.
Definitely. Well, ladies, thank you for being a part of our first ever live print-on-demand event. We couldn't have done it without you, so thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having us.
If you guys want to hear more conversations like this with other clearly fantastic merchants, I don't know if we can get better than what we had here, but trust me, it does sometimes. Check out our new podcast, Printing Profits. We got a brand new season coming up in just a few weeks, but in the meantime, if you want to check out the old one, we have a ton of amazing conversations with some really inspiring people, so make sure you go grab that wherever you get your podcasts. Coming up, my buddy Leah is also going to be chatting with another panel of experienced merchants who are very inspiring. They're going to be talking about how they started small and then sold big. Plus, you'll get to hear from Printify's new CEO, Anastasia Lenica. She's going to give you the lowdown of the future of print on demand. But right now, let's hear from a merchant who remembers what it was like when they made their first sale.